Welcome to another episode of the Release Day Series podcast. Joining me today is Craig Cardiff, whose album All This Time Running is out May 14th. Craig, thanks so much for joining me virtually as we've been doing this last year and a bit.
Well, thanks. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's great, man. And I'd like to start off, first of all, by really thanking you for the positivity that you've been bringing to the online world. I think it's obviously been really, really tough this last year and a bit, as I mentioned. But through all this, as much as I'm sure it's been difficult for you, it's great to see you putting out positive messages. When they announced another lockdown here in Ontario, you were like, live show, like, let's do another virtual live show, I guess. But it's just awesome to see that coming from an artist. And as much as it's been tough, I just want to focus, because you've been positive, focus on the positivity of it. Can you talk about like what good has come from being able to connect with your audience virtually over this last year?
So before I would do 150 things a year, and that's kind of what I set as a target. And I would target to make a certain amount of money a day that I had to be away from home. And so we would stack things, just be efficient with your time. So we would work with a school during the day, or a university, and organize songwriting workshops or guerrilla songwriting sessions, where basically it's like we're the lifeguard that makes you swim no matter what. Like, we're going to hold you up, pick you in, take you in the water. So we would run those, and then in the evenings I'd be performing at a club or a theater or what have you. And so that was the model. And so because that wasn't possible, I've been able to focus my time on only delivering workshops remotely and only working with classes remotely, whether the classes were in session since last spring, or whether they've gone remote. So as of now, I feel lucky for that. I know that that's been a thing. In terms of recording, so at my old home, I had a studio that was attached to the building, and I would hire engineers, and they would come and we would work, and the house was rigged up so that the piano could be mic'd, and I could do vocal sessions outside of the house or inside of the house, and that was the way we worked. And a few times we said, because I was always so busy with the other stuff, we didn't invest time in figuring out a way to work remotely. And it was always, I remember like, oh, we've wasted a whole day trying to figure this out, right? And because in one case, one engineer who I loved working with, he lived an hour away. And so for him to come was either him staying over, which was welcome to do, and he did, or it was a 2-hour commute. And so I look back now and I'm like, man, like how silly we were, because we didn't until we had to. And so All This Time Running had been worked on 6 months leading up to the pandemic, and in between touring, all the writing and the demoing that went into it. And then when we were about to go into like the finishing and the final vocals and all this, the pandemic happened. And so it forced us to learn. And these aren't new stories. Everybody's talking about these stories, how we learned to work remotely, how we learned to produce remotely. And so that's been a blessing. The number of people I've gotten to work with who I wouldn't have had access to because of my schedule or their schedule, it's been great. In terms of other good things, I've got so many to tell you. So I worked with, Spotify has this piece of this online software called Soundtrap. And so Soundtrap is used to record remotely. And so what I do at shows, what I've been doing at shows for the last several years, is as part of my show, I'll just write a song on the spot. The idea of like, I'll speak with you, we'll get some main ideas. And the idea is just to be scared and to create on the spot. Because if we create on the spot, then we get unstuck, and we challenge things like, well, it's not the right time. It's not the right time to record or whatever. It's just like with joy, silly, and then push yourself and then rewrite it after, fix it after. And so I've taken that same idea into classes. And so whether they were at their desks, if they had Chromebooks, or whether they're at home on Chromebooks, I've been sharing this software with them, and then it's just growing. So I've got all these students who were supposed to be doing co-op placements or who are music students who didn't want to go to school because they didn't, that's the choice they made. And so I just ended up with all these music teachers saying, could you take a student for a placement? And so we've been running this little Nashville remotely where there's about up to 20 people who gather every day from 9 till 6. They drift in, they drift out. We have a workflow list of like, can you finish this song for this class? Can you add trumpet to this? Hey, we need piano, we need vocals. And it's been really beautiful because everybody's supporting each other and teaching each other. And then what will happen in my average day, which if you asked me a year ago, I wouldn't have imagined, but I wake up, I get to meet with students remotely. We write a song within the hour. I give them access to Soundtrap and I'm like, be funny, break this song, figure it out. And then I get to hand it off to other students who are older to remix and give back to them.
Just those opportunities virtually that you've just spoken about that you might not otherwise have had a chance to do. And I think that's fantastic. So the reason we're here, the album, all this time running, we can, I won't sideline you anymore with railroad you.
What's next? What will I be sandbagged with?
Well, I just thought maybe we could talk Transformers trivia since I'm just kidding. We won't do that.
We just couldn't afford it. I had to make my own. And they were always like very non-changeable.
Yeah.
Alex.
Well, my son has seen people on YouTube being able to like homemade Transformers costumes.
Who are those parents?
And
is their only intention is to make us feel bad?
Exactly.
I'm like, you're Yoda again.
Yeah.
Oh, look, you're Yoda again. Isn't this great? We're really stretching this costume out. Oh, a ghost.
That's great.
So the album, All This Time Running, All This Time Running started as the theme of hustle. And I was feeling it 2019, working on the album. I just come back from, I was so fortunate, I toured with opening for Justin Azuka, and it was set up with Tom Serig, who I work with, and Baldeep Randawa at APA, and like all these people were like helping make it happen, and just like I didn't know him at all, and it was like looking back, I feel so lucky. I'm so grateful to Coalition and his whole team for that opportunity, because we'll see how soon it happens again. But the idea to travel, opening for a bunch of really solid people on a tour bus. Prior to that, it was like a few opening slots that were cool, but it was just me showing up with a guitar and like, here we are in Hong Kong, here we are in Germany, like figure it out. And so I was grateful for that. But I came back and it just felt hard. And so I don't know if it just felt hard. And so I remember being in the middle of all this activity that had been created. And then there was things like my dad had a heart attack. He, when he was playing soccer, and at that point, because I was stretched so thin and really focusing on touring in the States, financially, I'm like, I don't want to be here at 40, at the time 42. Like, I don't want to be here and not be able to stop working, just because there's so much work and it can't be rebooked. And
yeah,
I've got, these are all good problems, but it was that moment of like, I don't want to, like, I don't want to do this. Like, and so there was that kind of like, that cascaded off a series of things, 2019 into the early 2020, that I felt like I couldn't stop, and I was observing outside myself. And that's happened to me at other times. And that's always, I keep relearning this, but like to pause, right? Like to pause and be like, this looks like it's good and it's not good. And it's like this hustle and running. And so that's kind of the themes that kept happening. The album was written, all the songs were written, touring through the States during these incredible heat waves. I remember spending a bunch of time in New York City and just driving past cooling stations.
Yeah. Wow.
And I remember like being in touch with family and just saying like, you don't understand. It's so hot. It feels dangerous to be outside.
Wow.
And anyways, I feel lucky for the experience.
And is that how you got to some of the song titles on the album? Because a lot of them are
100%.
sort of those locations. And
Hmm.
was there something like about each location that made you feel like you instrumentally they came out the way they did?
The writing that happens lyrically is disconnected from a strong polished idea. Like Brian Park, we put out as a single ages ago, and so we re-recorded it within the vein of this album. So this album is big acoustic, like big kit drum, mandolin, banjo, acoustic, and so that's not in my that's not how my head works when I'm writing the song. It's like, how can I pull this off? Can lyrically it stand on its own, and then can I pull this off at a solo show, because that's what I've been doing for so long.
Mm.
And that's another like shift in the pandemic in terms of arrangement. It shifted everything in terms of our. It felt like we were waiting in the dark to figure stuff out, and so we did. We figured out how to record and work remotely. And I feel like when there's that level of nervousness, I always think of like, and I speak with other musicians about this. Like, how are your ears?
Right.
Are you hearing it as well at the end of the day as you are at the beginning of the day? And have you given your thinking and your ears a break, so that you're not eating bad food and thinking it's good food just because you're hungry? And so that was a feeling I had during the pandemic. I felt like there was a lot of reactive art that was being made, or people had time, so they're putting stuff out, and that wasn't my experience, and it wasn't something that I wanted to be intentional about. And then also, when you're working with people, like, you would have people who would not be available for a while because of technology, access to resources,
Yeah.
mental health, like,
Yeah.
so you're not just managing a project, you're managing like these variables. And that's just bringing it back to what I said about True North. It's like, they're just like, this is gonna be fine, we're gonna be back to normal soon. And that plus management, like, eye on the prize. Like,
Yeah.
these are great songs. And
Well, they really pushed you, didn't they? When the pandemic hit, you were kind of like, I need to take a break, and they said, no, like let's keep moving here.
no, they did. And I think that was the best thing, because it's easy to sit in a place of being stuck, but to have
Yeah.
people who are like, who care about you, or who are fans of your art and invested, and they're like, okay, here's what's next.
Yeah.
And I remember having that moment of like, oh, but sometimes we need that,
Yes.
and I it was done with kindness,
Yes.
right? It wasn't, sometimes, yeah, you need that friction sometimes of like a push. Not everything can be yeah, we don't see our own blind spots, so the idea of like getting a push from somebody, and that helps. So the songs themselves, all new, all studio recording. In the case of some, they were live, like live songs that I feel like I gave them their full due. I hadn't been able to make time for it before.
Which is way crazy to me, because Love Is Louder is big. Love Is Louder is a great album, and
Thank
there's
you.
two sides, I guess, to it. And and that was kind of one of the other things I was wondering about is, you kind of have songs on A side and the same songs but done differently on B side. So when you say you didn't have the time, it's pretty incredible to know that when you even felt like you might have been pigeonholed or tied up with other things, that you were still able to get different versions of the songs recorded as well, which is the same thing you kind of done on this album with Moon.
So the reason for Moon came from writing a song at Christmas. A friend wrote and said, this couple has had a crummy time, and their sons have seen you at something, like there's some school or camp thing, and could you do like a show for them, and like, I'd like to hire you, and it'll be a surprise for them. And so I'm like, no, that's fine, I can make time, and we'll just do a small thing. And so I ended up connecting with the wife. And so the story is that he was really sick and he ended up passing, but so we wanted to write a love song for them, and so she gave me all the stuff, the ideas for that song.
Wow.
And so that's where it came from.
Yeah.
And
It's
and the
amazing.
reason there's two versions is because nobody liked my horn arrangements.
Okay.
Everybody was like, what is it? and I've never had anybody, I mean, how lucky am I, and what a silly life, where I'm like, what do you mean you don't like the thing I did? And they're like, what?
Right.
I don't, stop this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. So we just took them out and added it as another track.
Cool.
Growing up, I was a huge fan of REM, and I remember I worked at a nightclub as a part of the cleanup crew, and all the guys on cleanup crew were, older than me, and they were into bootlegging. And I remember like saving up my money to buy like bootleg VHS and bootleg cassettes of REM songs.
Wow.
Or a lot of Pearl Jam stuff. And the idea that there was like these really crazy outlandish versions of covers. Like I've been thinking Say Hello in there is by REM up until John Prine died. And then being like, what? John Prine did it?
Yeah.
And so I like distributing those. I think that's where it came from. Yeah. That's it.
No, I mean, and you do great covers, man, and you fooled a few people into thinking that it's your song just by the way that you do it. And you've got a cover of Don't Give Up by Peter Gabriel on the album that's also done spectacularly, but you also did it 7 different versions as part of a release, which was so cool. How did you come to the idea of doing it that way? Because there's versions in different languages, and I do understand that you have a large following outside of Canada, and I have a feeling maybe that's where some of that idea came from, to connect with musicians across the world to create multiple versions of the song. And I guess, just to tack on to an extra long question here, is it just,
I'm just confused now, Alex.
No, I'm just thinking, like, I guess, was this done beforehand, or was it, let's do it now because it's the pandemic, don't give up, again, that whole idea.
I was lucky to work with a number of people over, to have revenue to hire people for like different chunks of time. And I didn't work in studios all the time. I would try to like do as much pre-production within the studio that I had made. And so for better or for worse, right? Like I look at it now, I'm like, if you keep making the same things in the same factory, then they can end up tasting the same, or the sonically like being in the same place. But I would often hire different ears, like working with a fellow named, he did a lot of work with Ben Leggett. And so he's running sound program at Canada or Nipissing College now. And so I've still connected with him sonically. Like I love the way his head works. And then but working with people who are focused on EDM music and production, just trying to stay connected and approaching things differently. And also like working with young engineers, like people who they don't know what they don't know. And so they're not approaching a session. They're approaching the session with, I'm just going to look up his name now. This is terrible that I don't know it. Feist, Katie Lang, producer, who did it? He has these amazing quotes, Benjamin Mink. And like, I don't know anything about him. I know he's got like a bluegrass project, but he just has this great quote where he's like, just do good work. Like there's this humility in the way that it's presented. And I remember hearing that and being like, let's in anything that is happening in anybody that I'm working with, let's instill that, like work hard, work efficiently, and like, do good work and serve the song. And so the idea of Don't Give Up is that song's like, those tracks were like 5 years old. If any, like the horror story for every producer is like, these bed tracks are, I don't understand. They look like they were in Pro Tools. I'm like, as a matter of fact, they were in Pro Tools and then in Logic and then back to Pro Tools. And then they were in Logic again. And so we have these like stacks. And so what would happen is we would look at what we owed people. We would look at my tour schedule and then just like trying to like make sure there's time for life. And so that would always get backburnered because it didn't have a deadline. Part of that idea of like releasing multiple versions, there was like I wanted it to have wider reach. And so I'm not always right in this, but the idea of could we take different versions and connect, like in the case of Hanukkah, it's a acoustic pop folk trio from Germany. And I met them when I was performing out on the island. And I said, like, they were just so much fun to hang out with. And I asked if they were interested in collaborating during the pandemic. They got back to me immediately.
Oh,
And so I just reached out to people like that. And again, so the stack of 100 tracks became 200. And when it came time to like deliver the song, so Jordan Percival is a friend and is with True North. And I remember him saying like, let's one version and knock it out of the park. And this is a version. And there was a pushback where I said, I'll do one version, but please, please, please let me play with this. And it's on my own time, and I'm the one paying people, and I'm the one doing it. And so if you don't like it, then won't put it out. And so, you know, we did it. Was it successful? I mean, it's what always breaks my heart in this new environment. If you put out a single, you'll get some action activity. When you put out an album, you end up like the song that you're most proud of, the mix you're most proud of. If it's not at the right spot, it doesn't get heard.
yeah.
And then you kind of sit there going like, how much money do I need to spend to get this in front of like,
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's how the different versions came to be. And from a craft's perspective, if Ryan Casada is an artist based out of Los Angeles, and I was speaking with them about this, and they said it really well. They're like, everybody's just putting out music to paper the radio, to just fill the algorithm, and that's not good music. That's not good art. That's not good music. It's just like, I'm guilty of that for sure, because I've had success on different streaming platforms, because I've had fans who became curators who worked for those companies. I've learned after the fact because I toured so much.
Wow.
And they connected with some songs, and those songs became popular. And so the craziness of it now is, if I put out a single that I can expect without any investment of money in advertising, I can see a boost automatically, algorithmically. But what I would really love is for everybody to like understand that they took the song and shared it themselves.
Yeah.
Far stronger.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Well, you have a ton of fans. You have a lot of people behind you and supporting you and listening to your music because of the years that you've been putting into the music industry and into writing, and like you say, into touring, so much so that, you know, you can reach out to them and ask them to record themselves for your music videos.
Jeff from True North gets credit for that. Like that, I'm like, I got to figure stuff out. He's like, no, this song, Safe Loved Home,
Yep.
and this is exactly the song that needs to be put out right now and shared with people. And so that was his idea. And so instead of spending money on the music video, it was like everybody who gave us a video, it was, you know, $50 to the Unison Benevolence Fund for
Perfect.
musicians. And I take no credit. That's entirely his thinking. And it was fun because all these people, it was when we were in the 2 more weeks mode,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
It's just 2 more weeks. Everybody will be fine. And so it gave people a way to do it, and it gave, I don't know, it felt better to spend money that way,
Yeah.
you know?
Especially at that time, for sure.
Yeah. So
we've talked, and you've mentioned True North Records, you know, and this being your debut on the label.
I'm an emerging artist.
You're an emerging artist. That's right. Well, you know, you gotta come in behind Buffy St. Marie, Bruce Coburn. You know, how does that feel? No,
Feels well. Here's the example that I love is the fact that this is a label that started out as artist management connections. Bernie Finkelstein, right?
Yeah.
And the idea that it's like their first release, whatever's TN1, is a Bruce Coburn album, and like that, those kind of relationships, that's exciting. Like that's exciting, and they've figured a way to navigate and be a company. And just like, so Tom Serig is my manager, and we've put out a bunch of stuff through his label Anti-Fragile, you know, and he managed Lou Reed, Cake. Like I remember when we first started talking, I'm like, let's find out about this Tom Serra character, because I really enjoyed chatting with him, and I had a sense of his background and the depth of it, but just like such a career, and like he signed Crash Test Dummies. He's but so humble and joyful about music still. I'm like, how are you excited? Like, I want to be excited about music like you're excited, and just being again like being pushed to write, you know, having somebody's like, Craig, we need a single. Like, oh, can't I just tour a lot and be good at that? And having people push you for that is a helpful, good thing. But that kind of like acknowledgement of it's not viral. It's like a work ethic, and the idea of like, it's not about today or this year. It's about the next 5 or the next 10. And I think that feels pretty hard, even for me today, talking to you, to like feel like that's a real idea. But when I look back, I'm like, whoa, I've written a lot of great songs, and I'm helping people write songs. And the idea that can be, after we're gone, hopefully some of those will still have a place or still bounce around.
Yeah.
And that's what we should be aspiring to. It's not just like, oh, I got the cover of this, or like, you know, whatever. Like I feel like the real thing is to create a body of work, and so connecting it
legacy,
back to,
right? I guess
legacy, maybe. I just like, you know, I think do good work, and then hopefully it'll pile up. And the idea that, you know, Bruce Coburn and Buffy St. Marie, I have no idea. I've never met either of them, but the idea that they did good work, and they like created stuff they cared about, and then they went on to the next thing.
Yeah, definitely.
On to the next, you know, like you keep doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. So how did it work out that you ended up on True North? Is this you reaching out to them, or was this through Tom, or that he brought you in, or what was it that landed you with the label?
I need to give credit. So Jordan Percival was working there, and because I've had luck with song placements and the work that Tom's done, like we licensed a song with NBC for This Is Us, and like we've had lots of cool things that Tom's been able to make happen, that you know, it gets to a point where you can do everything by yourself and you can do it well, but there's things that you just don't, there's people you just don't know. And so you just need to find somebody who's fun and honest and you trust. And so all of those things kind of came together, and I don't know entirely what happened on the True North end, but I know that I'm friends with Jordan, and you know, and we would work on projects prior to his working with True North. And the idea that he saw our numbers digitally, and they're an anomaly. Like, you know, we're at 110 million streams just on the one platform, and that's again because fans who were curators of lists made those happen. You know, and for me, Dirty Old Town, it's a great song. It's not my best song, and I would love for other people to hear it. Yeah. Hear the other songs, like Lake Michigan for me, All This Time Running, like Wyoming. I think Wyoming is one of the best songs I've written. And so my hope is to leverage the attention that those have gotten. And in terms of the label, it came from that. Like, it came from, I think of myself as a hard worker, and the idea of like, I'll tour. Like, I'm not precious. And I think those two things together were appealing. And and credit and thanks to them that they stuck with it, because the idea for me is that I made money off of touring. Like there's a great article. I'll just pull it up.
Right. So maybe there's no money, I guess. That's what we're saying. There's no money right now.
There's no money right now. But before, like I was lucky because I built up a value working with presenters in small communities. And I just want to pull up this article. You can reference it maybe, but middle class musician. So this idea of like a working class musician, and the idea of like being able to stop, and what we can go back to, I hope it continues, but there's parts of it that I don't want to come back. Our culture our culture in North America, at least in Canada, is diminishing returns. What are like ticket prices? Try taking a ticket price at any common venue over $25 and just and watch that like decision making either or go.
Oh, wow.
And it just is what it is, right? There's some venues, Neat Cafe in Burnstown, Black Sheep Inn, Hughes Room, Hughes Room no longer, but other venues that have built it up where it's like we're not a theater, so we don't have exorbitant overhead, and we can like raise the price, and so that the venue can see, like the venue shouldn't be struggling, the artist shouldn't be struggling. It's a partnership, and so I think that that's going to be reassessed coming back about what can be. But yeah, I was working a lot, and some shows would be great when you're investing and building back up in the US like I was. You're playing for low guarantees, and but that's part of the investment, the cycle. And so I relied on live, like working with school boards and universities.
Yeah.
And then ticket sales that I would present on my own at shows.
Well, I think the important thing too to take away from what you're saying, even about the live shows and why it is you could thrive on that, not only were you writing great music and being able to perform it, but the way that you engage your audience, people hear about that. It's the kind of performance that people tell their friends about that they want to go see. I tried to buy tickets to your show at Hughes Room because you're down the street from where I lived at the time. Couldn't get any because it was sold out, Craig. So,
right. Well, that's the best advertising for the next show, right? Like,
yeah.
I think and that's been the problem with virtual, is that everybody's like in this place where it's like, well, we don't have to, or,
or I'll catch the next one, or
it's I can watch it later.
Yeah.
All of us gave too much away for free. We didn't take enough time to be quiet because we were nervous. And we're like, if we can make noise right now to like distract ourselves from ourselves. I was doing that with the live from everywhere. I like just needed something to do and to share. And so it became this, I really loved it and enjoyed it. And I'll go back in some format, but it was too much.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And now for the release of this album, you are doing a live show. You're doing a live stream, and this is in conjunction with the venue out of Nova Scotia.
No, it's
New
everywhere.
Brunswick?
So no, it's everywhere. So what's happening is everybody who I've worked with in the past, so venues that have closed, finding the presenters, charities, community groups who presented my shows, friends, other musicians, I've just said to them, I'm going to be doing one show, and I would love for you to be part of it, because we had this amazing thing where over the last 15 years, we've done two shows a year. And so I want to talk about that. I want to have that be, because I don't have the career where people are like, and this happened. It's been kind of this, like, we had a really good show and we connected with the community, and then we came back, and then we did that with 5 and 10, 50, 100. And then we had some neat things happen along the way. So we had licensing, or we had like, boosts from streaming that people abroad were like, well, we need to hire you. You must be a big deal. And I'm like, well, it's just gonna be me coming. Don't worry about it. And so in that spirit, I'm confident we'll have more than 100. But on Saturday, May 15th, the idea is that people have bought tickets from Hughes Room. Hughes Room presents a live stream concert.
Okay.
Black Sheep Inn presents.
That's why I saw the venue come up as part of one of what you could buy tickets for, and that's why I gone to the Nova Scotia.
Yeah. Well, so what's happening is that if people buy tickets from us, then we're just splitting the revenue with the presenter, the venue, the charity, and then in each event there's an opportunity just to purchase directly from the venue, and the venue's keeping everything.
Yeah.
And the idea is that it's a way to say thank you and give back.
And forgive the ignorance on this question, but what about you as the artist? Do you get anything for this? Are you like,
yeah? So for the live stream, if I sell the ticket, I'm going to keep half of it, and then give half of it to the venue. And
Okay.
if the venue sells the ticket And we just note that clearly. And so it gives people a chance who are, who want to support the venue directly, to just have the money go to them, or the charity directly and have it go to them. Like I said, I've been lucky to build this kind of other way of working where I'm working with classes remotely, and I want everybody to buy the album. Like come to this live stream, support one of the local venues. You know, if we connected at some of the shows in Oregon, or any of the shows when I was like dying from the heat wave in my van, and I would show up like a sweaty rat, like just drenched at shows. People are like, "You all right?" I'm like, "It's hot. This does not. We're not used to this."
Yeah.
And if wherever we connected, like buy a ticket from that venue, you know, it can't be like this for all time, but we just have to find a way to like get through. And then the other thing is, we can think that it's just about the artist coming, and you think of the amount of energy. Like if we leave energy, the idea that there's magical places in the world, that we talk about these places we go to and we feel like it feels different when we walk into the room. Just imagine if every time we're at our fully most open and a whole room is belting, and whatever energy that leaves a residue, imagine that happening every night at the Horseshoe, and imagine that happening every night in over 10 years. Like it's got to leave like a bunch of ghosts, a bunch of joyful ghosts. And the idea that some of those places, financially, because of insurance restrictions, COVID, they won't be able to return in the same way. And so I think there's like, yes, let's think of the artists, but let's also acknowledge we need each other.
Yeah.
You know? And so that's the idea.
Yeah, absolutely. And not to lean too heavily on it, but you know, even the people in operating it, right? You talk about everybody in the live music world. You know, it's the lighting designers and the people that are, you know, the bartenders, even, you know, the people that help support the shows. You know, there are thousands, millions of those, you know, that make what you guys do possible, that you know, need to be thought of, and it's and part of that venue, and part of, you know, thinking about the venue world. So and I gotta say that artists have been doing a fantastic job, considering venues and charities like Unison. I mean, they're musicians. Musicians need to make a living, and I feel like there's more of them that are giving than they are taking, and I think it's been just incredible to see that from the industry in this country. So
well, I mean, hopefully, but I also think like what I see is some poverty mindset amongst musicians and amongst presenters of like, well, and I don't want to get too much into it, but the idea of people speaking to the I need to protect what's mine, you know, or like my value is diminished. I'm like, everything is broken. Like we're literally walking around with whatever we can. Some people are fine, and that's jarring. There's going to be this new division of people who are absolutely unaffected by all this. And so the idea of like, if we're going to be successful, there needs to be that building up collaboratively, and that's the only way that's going to work with fans, with venues, with artists.
Yeah. Last thing here, and this is kind of going backwards a bit, but I'm just interested in it.
Every time.
You've got so you have songs on this album that you have previously released, like Dirty Old Town,
for sure,
Last Love Letter. Yeah,
the idea with that was to put out songs that are clearly popular and pulling as bonus tracks. So
totally,
that was the sole intention. Because algorithmically it's going to pull up the new studio recordings we've got. Everything's been remastered, which I think you and I can sit there and go like, oh, remastered, eh? And I'm like, no, seriously, like as somebody with 44-year-old ears, listening to stuff like pulled out, especially on vinyl, like I've got the vinyl masters here, and I'm like,
cool,
this is amazing. Like I'm like, this is even better than, like, It's even better than the better it was.
Yeah. That's cool. Yeah, that's great. Is it like red and blue, like meshed together, like splatter
Oh,
vinyl?
the vinyl? Well, you have
Yeah.
to order it. You have
Oh
to order
yeah,
it to see.
it's a
Wow.
good question. I'd say hold it up to the camera, but it's black and white, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, yeah. My plan
Yeah.
has worked.
Yes,
I
exactly.
interrupted your question.
No, it's pretty much it. It was, you've released them at least Dirty Old Town, and you kind of released like another type of album before with again Lake Michigan on it and Virginia, and it's like those are the songs that again I just think about, or those opportunities to re-release music, and I think you've done a great job of doing that as well, and
Well,
kind of hooking your listeners to be able to hear him again just a little bit, either a little bit differently, or to hear him again. I mean, this album is coming out under True North. There's a whole other audience potentially that you can
of
be reaching
course.
just through that. So I think it's brilliant to pull up those songs that been around for what 10 15 years.
13 years? Yeah, in some cases. The thing for me though is like the sonically the link and all the new material, like like everything down to the song, everything was like everything was written and everything is new in terms of the touring I was doing in the States. I felt like I was like the scout. I didn't know it at the time, but like just being sent down and like all the content and all the pieces and the stories that I collected for those songs are like what I'm sharing back. And so yeah, and I just like I in the middle of recording, wrong place, wrong time. It was like the call, like your dad's somewhere in the hospital, and the phone banging up of like, I play soccer with your dad. Like you need to, this happened. I don't know if you're his son, and those touchstones of like in the middle of trying to create and then run business, and then just realizing like I didn't have the resilience or capacity that I thought I had. It was like got kind of pushed out of me, and then trying to like, okay, so there's nothing to do but to like do the best you can, move forward, and that's in those songs. Like those are dust yourself off, pick yourself up songs that I hope will find life and homes in people's heads, because they're special to me.
Yeah, it's amazing, man. Well, this album is great. I'm really grateful to have had an advanced listen of it. So all this time running is coming out May 14th. Craig, thanks a lot, man, for your time and talking about the album and your life as a musician right now. So all the best.
All the best to you, Ox.
Thanks.